Okay, class. Several of you have been absent over the past few days, and some of you are also struggling on stoichiometry. So I thought I would do a series of lessons to get those of you that have been out caught up, and maybe to help some of you others that are really struggling with this concept. So the very first thing that every one of you need to know and be able to understand is, what is a mole? Well, a mole by definition is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles. Now, those particles can be any kind of individual piece. For chemistry, we call those particles atoms, individual atoms. They can be molecules. 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules, or formula units, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd formula units. Okay, and so particles can mean either one of these three. So mole basically is a counting word that we use in chemistry to mean 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd particles. And in class, you'll remember that we kind of related that to the word dozen. And the word dozen is a counting word that means 12 particles of something. It could mean 12 donuts, or 12 eggs, or 12 tractors, or 12 plastic forks. Anytime you have 12 of something, that's a dozen. And just like anytime you have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd of something, you have a mole of that thing. So that's just sort of a review on what a mole is. Now, we can take these particles and get a mass of them. Just like I can take 1 dozen plastic forks and put them on a balance and get a mass of those dozen forks, I can also weigh out using a triple beam balance, or what other kind of electronic scale you might have, and measure those out and get a mass. Well, we call that molar mass. And molar mass is just exactly what the word sounds like. Molar mass is the mass of 1 mole of atoms, or 1 mole of molecules, or 1 formula unit, or 1 mole of that formula unit. So the mass of 1 mole of something is called its molar mass. We find molar mass from the atomic mass on the periodic table. And the atomic mass, if you have a periodic table, and I'm just going to try to get this in kind of close, but let's look for mercury. That 200.59, 200.59, that is the atomic mass of mercury. We can say that is 200.59 grams in 1 mole of mercury. So find the atomic mass from the periodic table, and just to keep things simple, we're going to always round our atomic mass to the first decimal place, to the tenths place. We're going to round to the tenths place, and that's just going to help us in our calculation. So those are just some introductory notes for you on what a mole is, what molar mass is, and how we find molar mass. Okay, so we did this worksheet in class first, this molar mass practice worksheet, where we were just practicing calculating the different molar masses from the periodic table. I'm going to move down and work number 3 for you, because that one is a little bit more complicated than the first two. So we're given a formula of Ca parentheses OH close parentheses 2, and it wants us to find the molar mass. So what it's saying here is I have basically 1 mole of this ionic compound. If it's an ionic compound, we call that a formula unit. If it was a covalent compound like water, we would call that a molecule of water. Or if it was 1 singular element from the periodic table, we would say 1 atom of calcium, or 1 atom of iron. So to find the molar mass of calcium hydroxide, we look at this particular compound and we see that calcium has only one atom in this particular formula unit. We look right here, there's no number there, so it's an understood 1, so that's 1. From the periodic table, we know that calcium has an atomic mass of 40.1 when we round to the 10th place, grams per mole. So 1 times 40.1 is 40.1 grams. Now, if we look back at our formula, we see that this formula unit of calcium hydroxide also has 2 atoms of oxygen. Okay, we have to multiply that by the number from the periodic table, 16.0, when we round to the 10th place. So 2 times 16 is 32.0 grams in the oxygen. We also see that we have, in calcium hydroxide, we have 2 atoms of hydrogen, and we're going to multiply that by 1.0 from the periodic table to get 2.0 grams. So once we add all of these together, 40.1 plus 32.0 plus 2.0, we end up with 74.1 grams per 1 mole of calcium hydroxide. So this 74.1 is the molar mass of calcium hydroxide, and you can see from this particular problem and from all problems that the unit for molar mass is grams per mole. So I think that's all that you'll need to help you through the rest of the molar mass practice worksheet.